the Leshrac as a support, then the counter of the Anti-Mage versus Leshrac didn't seem to mean that much. And it eventually came down to the Sven being unkillable, the Sven dealing so much damage. Seeing the IO taken out immediately, though, Execration, they won't be facing up against that again. And the IO actually did do quite well there. Towards the end of the game, we saw a great many relocates in onto the Legion Commander with a duel. And that is make and break for this hero, whether or not you're able to leverage that relocate easily, but the duel is such a nice combination. And pretty good placement as well, with that relocate during teamfights, able to pick off a whole bunch of kills. Mars not being banned this time around, that is without a doubt the most popular offlaner with this Slardar. But since the Slardar's been banned, there's not that many options, so yeah. Execration. We'll see how they respond. I think Rubik is pretty good against Mars, stealing his spells is quite nice. The lift has a lot of synergy with the Stolen Spirit Mars. And so we are going to be seeing that Rubik coming out once again. And for Team Void, seeing the Rubik does kind of block out some picks, but they actually picked the Tomb into the Rubik and it didn't seem to matter. With the Mars, we've seen certain combinations, such as the Lina. One stun leads into the other quite easily. I've also seen a lot of Snapfire together with Mars to make use of everyone being trapped inside the Mars arena. Then again, that's a very good pick against, or for the Rubik rather. So they're going to be going with the Mirana this time. Can't really go wrong with the Mirana, frankly. One of the more, I guess, generic supports. Nice mix of utility, some damage, hard to actually chase down, and the ultimate, honestly, with the movement speed is pretty nice. Bloodseeker coming out, though, that's interesting. It's a hero that's somewhat fallen out of favor, but it's not like it's been nerfed. It's a great way to hold the Mirana in place. That leap, you're going to be taking damage the entire time. But seeing the Bloodseeker picked up this early, there are some cores that can deal with it quite well. Lifestealer ban here, Lifestealer, fairly popular hero against the Mars. Just because you can lane against him, it's not a particularly good matchup, because the Mars can just tank you with a bulwark, but Mars does not play well against a magic immunity. A Bloodseeker does tend to combine with certain heroes. I suppose the Rubik's decent, because the lift can pretty much guarantee a blood right, so that's probably going to be their offlane combination. Faceless Void being banned out, that's one of the heroes who can do very well against the Bloodseeker, because you can still use your mobility spells and not take damage. Taking the Sven out of the equation, that in itself is not too suspect of a ban, but I always have in my head, sort of list of things that you can't pick a Faceless Void or every single counter does have, I guess, a target, and Sven we see being a very generic hero to ban, but he's also countered to a great many other heroes. So the anti-mage that we saw from our last game, that's a very good example. And now with the Sven banned, and Team Void, they could go for the anti-mage. Morphling being banned out, it's a very similar hero to the Faceless Void, as you have this mobility, which you can use. So these are two very nice bans. Not to mention, it's pretty good against the Bloodseeker and Ling. Now, seeing that Drow Ranger ban here, what does that really mean? We're seeing all of these position 1 bans. I think in a lot of cases, games these days are decided by the position 1 versus position 1 matchup. And we've got the Phantom Assassin coming out here, so immediately laying that one on the table. And the PA is one of those position 1s that you just can't play an anti-mage into, you can't play any illusion heroes into her. Troll Warlord's still in the pool. I think that's a pretty good way of dealing with a PA, however. You don't really care for the Bloodseeker. Very good against a PA, and it's not like you give any spells over for the Rubik to steal that are particularly good. Now, Magnus is still available, and it's quite clear that Execration are going to be going for the Magnus if it's left unpicked. So I think for Team Void to pick up the Magnus here and then pick up the Troll Warlord as their 4th pick would make a lot of sense. On the other hand, for the PA, if you can't get the Magnus to buffer up, often we see the or not. We often see the Ogre together with the Phantom Assassin, but now that the Spectre's been picked and you still have the Magnus available, it's very likely that Execration go for that. Now, Spectre on paper has a very good matchup in the Phantom Assassin. You pick up the Blade Mail, and the PA just cannot go for you. Slaughter is another hero that obviously goes well with the PA, but that's been banned in the first phase. And do you have to run the PA with a buff? Not necessarily, but I find it really allows the PA to scale better into late game. Because otherwise, without any buffs, PA late game, especially against the Spectre, is a bit iffy. You're very reliant on your BKB timing. Having a 10-second BKB is great, but a 5-second BKB, it's very easy to control. And picking up the Spectre here, I think we might be seeing a Doom come out as well. But they go with the Omni Knight, so that's going to be their buff for the Phantom Assassin, and that might mean that the PA doesn't have to go for a BKB that early. If you have not so much the Guardian Angel, I think the Heavenly Grace is probably the more important spell here for the Phantom Assassin. Just having, I guess, the guarantee that she'll be able to constantly put out damage, that's very nice. We see the Storm Spirit on the other side of things, Omni Knight 0cc, Phantom Assassin 0cc, and Bloodseeker's not terrible, but their only reliable son is the Rubik. Now, Storm Spirit actually has a very bad matchup into the Rubik because of the instant lift. If you get onto him with the Orchid, you kill him first, and that's really not an issue. Giving over your spells, giving over your Ball Lightning in particular is pretty good for the Rubik. But if you look at the rest of the draft, I really think the Storm can do a lot this game. And that's a very scary late game combination. You got the Spectre, great late game, Storm Spirit, also great late game. And if you ever get arrowed or you ever get pulled inside a Mars Ultimate, the Hunt will be right on top of you. The Ball Lightning will be right on top of you. Team Void, I think it's quite clear that they've got a very strong late game setup here. So probably just looking for a hero to secure the lanes. I think Shadow Demon could be very good with the Disruption. That's a very easy setup for a Mirana Arrow, and it's also a great counter to the Omni Knight because you have the Heart this spell to get rid of the Guardian Angel. Also pretty good against the Phantom Assassin, you can kite her around. Demonic Purge is a very strong slow for the first couple of seconds. We're going to be seeing the Keeper of the Light here, however. Keeper of the Light does give some very nice spells for the Rubik to steal. And in theory, it's pretty good for kiting around the Phantom Assassin because you have the knockback as well as the blind from the Blinding Light. But that's where the Omni Knight with Heavenly Grace can really come in. As it stands, Execration don't have the best solutions to a Will-O-the-Wisp, nothing like a Luna or a Snapfire. And Snapfire could be a pretty good last pick for them. They're gonna go with the Void Spirit here. Does give them a lot of mobility with a Phantom Assassin. So really looking to take out the supports as soon as possible. At a very fundamental level though, I think they don't have any good answer to the Spectre late game. And honestly, they don't have any good answer to the Storm Spirit either. It's just the Rubik with the lift. They don't have that much lockdown. And if you get a BKB on the Storm Spirit, there's literally nothing that can control him. Other than maybe a PA with Basher, but that's much later on. And the Keeper of the Light, it's a very nice combination, of course, with the Mars. Everyone trapped inside the circle, forced to look at the little ball. Where's Execration? Where is their teamfight really going to come from? They've got a lot of single target damage. And I've got some single target control, that's quite nice. And that can be a good way to deal with Storm Spirit as Spectre. Generally speaking, Spectre wants to be farming on the other side of the map. We'll see if they can pull it off. If nothing happens